Welcome back. I am here with our next business contributor, guest expert for our next 3 straight talk features, Steve Gavatorta, fellow paisano, founder and CEO of the Steve Gavatorta Group, a well-established and highly sought-after business communications coaching company. First, a little background on Steve and the company. Steve has a BS degree in economics and is highly sought after, as I mentioned before, as a trainer, coach, and speaker on mastering communications excellence in the workplace. He is a certified professional values and behavioral analyst, say that fast 10 times, and author of the acclaimed book, The Reach Out Approach, a communication process for initiating, developing, and leveraging mutually rewarding relationships. His company, the Steve Gavatorta Group, with a client list that reads like the best of Fortune 500, specializes in effective communications as the catalyst for sales and leadership success, team building, and mastering change. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you. First and foremost, I must say molto bene on that introduction.
Molto
Thank you very much.
bene. You're welcome. Hey,
pleasure to be here.
Hey, ciao and ta-ta and all of that. Okay. Steve, why don't we start out with a little bit, so folks get to know you a little bit, since we're going to hear from you in the next 3 weeks, a little bit about your philosophy and your approach, because it's different and it's really cool from what I recall.
Sure. I'm a believer that the most foundational element of any successful person is in their ability to communicate, connect, and interact with others. So the focus of my business is on how effective communication can be a catalyst for personal development, selling skills, managerial effectiveness, leadership, dealing with change, really anything that involves interacting with another person. Now, I'm not talking communication from a broad perspective. I'm talking about communication on a one-to-one basis, how I connect with you, whether I'm a salesperson.
As a person,
exactly.
Person to person.
Exactly.
Dialogue, and I know today your subject wants to be dialogue, not monologue.
Exactly.
And in today's electronic world where everybody's texting and emailing, maybe the art of communication is getting lost a little bit, is it?
Absolutely. I always say that, and we're in a high-tech, low-touch world. We're forgetting that base fundamental element, and I think that is truly a differentiating point for people going forward, again, in all these, both in your personal and professional lives.
Right. And I can imagine that whatever you learn, even if you learn it in a business setting, will help you in every other aspect of your life.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Good. Okay. So this all makes sense. Let's move on to the topic you wanted to talk about today, which is turning boring monologues into successful dialogues. Now, most people, I would think that people don't want to be going on and on in a monologue, says she, as she goes on and on in a monologue. But do they even realize they're doing it? Where is this happening, and do folks even realize they're doing it?
Well, I think any arenas. Let's take the business world. If there's salespeople out there, they may be so ingrained in getting accomplished what they get accomplished. If they're not communicating openly with their customer or the buyer, they're not developing a two-way communication. They're so entrenched in getting done what they want to get done. Or a manager managing their respective employee. They want to get across what they want to get across when coaching them, and they're not listening to the other side. What I'm talking about is really a two-way dialogue, not just me talking to my customers.
At you, not just talking at people.
Exactly, that's correct. Making a connection, understanding someone else's communication style or behavior style, and then making that adaptation to connect. And when I talk communication, it's not just how I'm talking to you, it's understanding how that other person deals with change, risk, and conflict. As an example, if I'm in a selling scenario and my buyer or customer is highly risk averse, if I'm trying to stuff something down their throat, I'm not really appealing to their fears and fear of change. I've got to acknowledge that fear or acknowledge that a fear of taking change or making change and taking risk, and make them feel less afraid to accept what I'm offering.
And I believe that is called the platinum rule versus the golden rule.
Absolutely.
The platinum rule being treat others as they want to be treated.
Absolutely.
And talk to them the way they want. Okay. Well, we're running out of time, so let's get some tips you can give us that we can use right away.
Sure. Really, I have a 4-step process, and it goes as follows. First and foremost, recognize and embrace differences. Listen, we all have different DNA, different fingerprints, different behavior styles. Second piece is listen and read. As you're communicating with someone, listen to what they're saying and read their style. If they're direct and to the point, whether they're talkative or gregarious, you've got to read that style, because that leads into the third step of adapting your style for effective communication. And the last step is closing the communication gap. Once I understand how you communicate, we're going to close the gap and allow us to get closer. And then it's all right, perfectly all right for you to communicate to that other person and tell them what you need in response.
There you go.
Well.
All right. If you want to follow up with Steve, you can reach him by phone. That number is 813-908-1343. Or you can email him at steve@Gavatorta Group. That's GAVATORTA.com. We will also have his contact information on the show's website, boomerradioshow.com. Steve, thanks so much for sharing your expertise, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right. Good.